N'Zoth. We already know he's been my favorite old god from the very beginning. He is the ultimate planner of planners, the ultimate schemer, and to me, that makes him the ultimate old god. Maybe not the most powerful, but the most brainworthy of surviving all of the things that have happened, right? Not only that, we showed him. We showed him literally how his life was going to end. Do you believe the greatest schemer of all schemers would let his own end and demise come without having a backup plan? Potentially the dagger, right? Xal'atath, who knows? If a piece of his essence is still there, this old god Blood Xal'atath is gathering up pieces of old gods and things like that. Is she bringing N'Zoth back? We know already visions of N'Zoth are returning. Does that mean N'Zoth himself is finally returning in 11.1.5? Let's see what Doran, the Teller of 1,000 Truths, has to say about this.
So not only was 11.1 just determined on the PTR, but we finally learned what Nightfall actually means, and we are revisiting the actual horrific visions of N'Zoth in particular, the corrupted Orgrimmar and Stormwind, the same ones from BFA.
Yes, I'm still on this shit because I want N'Zoth to come back. There's no way that he literally got killed by a rings uniting Captain Planet fucking beam, okay? There's no way. That's the dumbest shit ever if that's actually what happened. So I have some faith, maybe misplaced faith, but I have some faith that an N'Zoth story is going to continue.
When you look at the official article, this seems like a whole bunch of recycled content, but when we look at the PTR information, it seems like we are going to a time travel scenario to get information about how we dealt with N'Zoth before, because the current old god blood deposits are going to start giving us troubles real soon, and it will be a lot more dangerous than what N'Zoth gave us back in BFA. So what really is Nightfall? What are these new horrific visions? Are we going to see the grand return of N'Zoth now, seeing that the Ethereals and Karesh seem to be the path that leads us into midnight? So if you haven't seen it yet, I've opened a second channel for the raid, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. However, best of all, the game has just gotten a huge update, and you can get two really good...
Everyone and their brothers got a Raid Shadowlands spawn. Where the fuck is mine? Where are you, Raid? Why aren't you sponsoring me? I'd chill myself out for a couple bucks. I'll hoe myself out.
Link in the description or the QR code
Give me a call
on the screen. The 6th anniversary is here with huge updates, making the game better than ever. Upgrading to 6 stars has never been easier, and you can play on PC with multiple accounts. Best of all, there is a brand new promo code
confirmed.
6, where all new players will get a really good Orc Supreme Galak for a limited time. Furthermore, Alice's adventure is still upon us. With all
Mad
the
Hatter looks kind of
you
cool,
can
actually.
get Alice by just logging in for 7 days.
You're a Canadian maple
personally
syrup can
maxed
support
her
you.
out, and you can check out how to gear
Not
her and
fucking
what
Canadian.
you can do with her on my second channel,
fucking deny
Dawn's
it.
Arena. I've also got a clan that is almost full, so I'd really appreciate you guys joining in because we need all the help we can get. And you can also check out my guides on how to progress from campaign to dungeons, clan boss, and arena so that you can get to the endless content Raid has to offer. So click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen and you will get the best start ever. You will get Sargala after you complete the tutorial. You will get Ugo at level 15. And you will get Alice after 7 days of logging in, and Supreme Galak if you use the code Supreme6. On top of all that, you will get a whole lot of extra stuff to help your adventure with my link in the description. So check out my second channel and also check out Raid.
There it is.
So we've been talking about these horrific visions and Nightfall thing as one of the most important main storylines in the War Within that is going to be the big turning point into midnight, but unfortunately based on the recent official article and some PTR information, it doesn't really seem like it is going to be what we expected it to be, but at the same time there are a few really interesting lore nuggets and implications that could tie it to the main storyline and N'Zoth. So far, based on the article, the 11.1.5 doesn't seem like some giant turning point. It just seems like a filler patch, and the horrific visions seem like a little bit of old recycled content to get the patch cadence, but as I said, at the same time, there are a few other things going on.
It's certainly recycled content, but what I will say about it is that it makes sense to go back to horrific visions. Horrific visions are the version of our world, or the vision of N'Zoth, of what our world looks like once the void has kind of conquered it, right? So not only is it a vision of what it could look like right now, it's a vision of our potential future. If Xal'atath wins, our planet is completely conquered by the void, and then Demantius shows up and, just completely engulfs us. Okay, this is basically a look at what the future could look like. So why would you want to go there? You want to find out, okay, what does it look like, and how do we beat it? How do we defeat it? That's essentially why you'd be going back to these visions of N'Zoth. So in terms of lore, it makes sense. It's not just some random island with a random Cersei's, circlet anal ring that we're going to grab just to pass some time. No, these actually make sense in terms of why they're coming back.
On here at the same time. We did finally learn what Nightfall actually means, and it is apparently a scenario for the Arati. We will fight beside a new faction called the Flames Radiance, and we are fighting against the Nerubian forces. This faction is a volunteer Arati
Keep
militia,
sponsorship
and we will have to push back against the Nerubians. Kind of similar to what happened before, but I think it isn't really what we expected. Like, I was personally expecting some giant transformation of a new zone or Beledar, but it really does seem like one final push of the Nerubians after the defeat of Queen and Surek. We know that Mr. Beledar has been transforming constantly and switching to the Night, which empowers the Nerubians. Here, this seems to be one final culmination, so this Nightfall might actually lead into something greater with Beledar. On the other hand, we also
that makes sense actually, because the final raid of this expansion could be inside of Beledar. You guys remember the key art that Blizzard released with the expansion? Man, if I could find it right now, Beledar. WoW Wiki, is this it? Boom. Yeah, right here. Got it. It's right behind my head. Let's see. Jarvis Enhance. Hold on. Let me pull this up. Let me make this a little bit bigger. This picture. Right here. You guys see this picture? This picture was inside of the art book that came with the giant, version, the big box boy that came with the statue and everything else. There was an art book. And this picture right here with an opening in Beledar and a staircase going up to it looks like, hey, this could be a raid entrance or something like that. So yes, Beledar is certainly going to be important. And who knows, maybe potentially the location of the final raid.
On the other hand, we also learned what the horrific visions are, and I've talked about this for a really long time now. By all accounts, this seems to be a time travel scenario and something akin to the Mists of Pandaria in the upcoming Legion remix, but based on some datamined PTR information, there is actually more at stake here. However, I did say that N'Zoth is getting involved. People have been saying that nothing really confirms that these would be N'Zoth's horrific visions, and that this might be the new Zealotet visions or something more related to the Void, but as you may remember, they did write on that roadmap that we are revisiting the horrific visions, and so far we've only had one horrific vision, so it has to be related to N'Zoth. Now, the official article that was released a few days ago states that we are actually returning to N'Zoth's corrupted Stormwind, Orgrimmar, the one that you may remember from that iconic BFA cinematic. Well, we will have to maintain our sanity and go through it. Now, if you played BFA, I mean, you know the gist of it and what this will look like and how the gameplay is going to be. On first glance, this seems super lame, as in they're really just recycling old BFA content and trying to push it off as new, but we have actually more information on why they're actually doing this, and good news is it is related to the main storyline and it is actually a part of the plot progression. Unfortunately, 11.1.5 isn't the big storyline point I was expecting. As I said, I was expecting a big return of N'Zoth, significant old god involvement.
That would have been amazing.
That still isn't out of the picture.
No.
It just might not happen.
It's not out of the picture. And you gotta remember, Zalatet's relationship with N'Zoth is very different from all the other old gods. Honestly, she seems to think the other old gods are trash. The only one that she's really interacted with, at least in front of us, has been N'Zoth. I mean, she literally brought the player to N'Zoth, did the exchange for the dagger, right? And N'Zoth kept the dagger. She brought the player. He kind of let her, let her go on and do her thing. So they have a relationship. Now, if that relationship is strong enough for Zalatet to actually bring him back, we don't know. But if there was one old god she was going to resurrect, it would be him.
Now, so far, the Bronze Dragons state a few things in the PTR. They say that the Black Blood, much like the old gods from which it came from, is potent and dangerous, and it isn't the first time Azeroth is facing the mind-altering properties. As you may know, the Void is really big on driving you insane and warping reality. Now, the Bronze Dragon continues that when N'Zoth sought the return of Nilota, Rathian and the Titan Mother discovered how to resist reality warping corruption. So, the gist of it is they're going back there to revisit a few key moments from BFA and to gain new knowledge that we can implement with the current old god corruption and what we can do right now with the current context. Key point is, similar visions, old god related visions, are coming in a much worse way, and we need to prepare. As they say, continue reliving these visions, champion. The more we understand the past, the better we can face the threats of the present. Now, a few things are actually going on here that are not obvious when you just read the article. I predicted a few months back that the involvement of N'Zoth in the old god blood is going to happen, but I did say that the return to Nilota could be possible. Remember, Nilota
is so damn cool. I feel like all we got was that little raid portion of it. I wanted to see this fully realized in game. Giant spires. You got to remember the size of Nyalotha supposedly is like enormous, right? And we saw that in the raid itself, right? Staircases that were way more massive than they needed to be for, little players to walk on and stuff like that. But seeing Nyalotha in game, like an entire zone like this, would have been crazy. And we never got that. So maybe we'll eventually get it. I wouldn't bet my money on it at this point, but I wish we could. I wish we would.
Apparently the old god capital of N'Zoth, but we've only actually been there in a vision, not the actual reality, like an alternate scenario. And the interesting fact is that Nyalotha was called the Sunken City, which made absolutely zero sense, seeing that not only was not it underwater, but it also didn't sink anywhere. I mean, there was no presence of water. Then in the War Within, we're constantly getting these hints of sea under the sea, the Void Sea.
That's true. We've been getting these hints.
Minions living in some hidden zone. There is the 5th Old God mural. There is also a confirmed hidden zone called the Rootlands. So it could entirely be possible that the true Nyalotha could actually be somewhere close to Kazaghat. Like this massive Black Empire city did actually sink somewhere, and these old god monsters still live there. Hence, it is called the Sunken City. However, the 11.1 ending where Blizzard told us that now we will know where we are going next kind of changed that prediction drastically. I mean, it doesn't seem like 11.1.5 is offering a new zone, so it's not like we got all that much room and we actually have more info to work with. The current story summary is that the Ethereals...
Oh, jeez, I want to see it. Don't want to see it. Don't want to see it. Don't want to see it. Spoiler, we're going to keep it spoiler free. Haven't seen the cinematic yet. Okay.
A giant Nyalotha. However, old gods are still relevant, and I think it will be one of the main themes of Rootlands as we're going to the roots of the famous
Rootlands is almost confirmed at this point.
Did you notice that the old god blood is like the main story aspect of War Within, but we are not learning much other than the fact that it is all over the place, that Galavix is using it as a very powerful weapon.
Don't want to see, don't want to see, don't want to see.
Of Azeroth, and there is still that unexplained
story mode last night, saw it.
From
yeah,
the
it's
Nerubian
available
Kingdom
now.
And the Nerubian labs where they're extracting old god parts from that are not explained. So the point is, the old
we still don't know whose tentacle this is. I mean, this could be a schlong for all we know at this point. We don't know who this belongs to, but it is a piece of an old god.
Are definitely still relevant to the main storyline. In 11.1.5, based on the PTR and the official article, we're revisiting N'Zoth's vision in order to learn how to counter the old god blood, because it will apparently soon start causing the same mind-altering effects, and we need to see what we did in the past. I think this is a pretty big foreshadowing for the relevance of the old gods. Also, N'Zoth's death has been super weird. We never really discovered the true location of his prison. We didn't really fight him like we fought Yogg-Saron in his prison. I've made a whole video.
We also never found the dagger again. I mean, you remember Rathian looks at his hand like, where the hell's the dagger? It's gone. And we know the dagger has the ability to keep things inside of it, to imprison things in it. So, piece of N'Zoth in it? Yeah, very possible.
Back explaining this, but something really weird is going on with the old gods. Like a few years ago, back in Dragonflight, Blizzard hinted that the old gods had rebelled and that they're not even working on the same goal as it initially was, which was the fact that they were just weapons of the Void Lords. My recent theory has been based on the new information from the War Within, and that is, as we know, Azeroth can corrupt its invaders, like how she gave free will to the Titanforged and she forced them to rebel. So, it is possible that Azeroth's whispers actually shattered the old god unity and got them to war with each other to establish their Black Empire, and they kind of deviated from that mission. From their perspective, why would they even want to...
You got to remember, visions of N'Zoth, right? It's a vision of what N'Zoth would like to see come to pass in our world. It's not exactly what Xal'atath is trying to do. Xal'atath wants to bring about Demancius' destruction of the entire planet. N'Zoth and the other old gods didn't want that anymore. They just wanted to corrupt the planet and rule over it. Destruction of the planet would lead to the destruction of the old gods that exist upon it as well. So that's they're even though originally they were sent out by the Void Lords, their interests are not necessarily aligned with the Void Lords anymore. So that was that whole Visions of N'Zoth thing. So going in there, probably the main thing we get out of it is how to resist corruption, because we're going to have to deal with that when it comes to Xal'atath and Demancius.
In Azeroth and empower the Void Lords, but they could just take the planet and rule for themselves
and
become something akin to like mini Void Lords themselves. So the theory goes that the Void Lords realized the old gods rebelled, they sent Xal'atath to deal with them to get them back in line. This explains the constant criticism Xal'atath has for them, the constant contempt, but obviously she failed in this mission, seeing that she was stuck in that dagger, but now she seems to be back on the original track. Maybe we are going to deal with the
Go ahead, Sam's
of the
bald
Black
spot.
Empire before we go with the original Void Lord plan. Furthermore, if this is not the case, because as I said, it is a speculation still, remember, the old gods like N'Zoth are super weird. Remember that quick time travel scenario we had in Dragonflight where N'Zoth got new whispers that they added? We apparently time traveled to the time when the old gods were still fighting the elemental lords, so very early in their reign, and N'Zoth essentially has this breaking the fourth wall moment where he tells us he sees us.
Yeah, this was a big moment. That means he saw his own future and he knows how he was gonna die. That's why I think he survived. Now, you know what? My fucking comment, you guys are fucking ridiculous. My Twitch comment section here, the Twitch chat, you guys are talking about my bald spot, fucking me having dementia and shit. What the hell? I'm trying to get into some lore here, and then I gotta deal with this shit about talking about my hairline. It's fucking male pattern bald. So what do you want me to do? I can't reverse that shit.
In the present, I don't see why
Chad is S tier. Degenerative S tier.
I feel like somehow we're going to get yet another self-aware moment, as we did manage to ultimately defeat N'Zoth and BFA through these visions, and he might see what we did in this weird time travel, but also at the present in the same way, if that makes any sense. Another big thing is that while we defeated N'Zoth, this once again wasn't exactly his prison. We don't know the location of his real prison. For example, we know exactly where Yogg-Saron was or where Cthulhu was. We saw the prison ourselves, but we just don't know where N'Zoth is. Apparently somewhere under the sea, but
very deep under the sea.
It's been super vague. It is possible that he could be related to Kazlagar, or if not, if this is not N'Zoth we're talking about in Kazlagar, it could be that fifth old god that was hinted at. Because remember, the Nerubians are gathering all these old god parts somewhere in Kazlagar, but we don't know where from. Nonetheless, while 11.1.5 seems like a super filler recycled content patch, it seems to set up the storyline for the old gods to once again
be setup patch,
so don't be surprised if new whispers arise. We discovered new old god prisons and something new about Xal'atath. Maybe N'Zoth will tell us himself who Xal'atath really is, what the real plan is. Maybe
that would be cool.
We'll discover that the void is more split than we thought. Remember, we are not fighting the United Legion here, led by a single character like Sargeras. It is entirely possible that the old gods are against Xal'atath and the Void Lords, and those Void Ethereals are against both of them, and they're working for someone else. It was hinted that Xal'atath is working for Demencius, which is one of the Void Lords, but we don't know much other than that. So the story is really starting to get good and culminate for the Midnight Invasion. Thanks for watching. Check out our new expedition to Kadesh by clicking on the screen, and subscribe to my new raid channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Yeah, I think, calling it a filler patch, it's a 0.5 patch. I mean, at the end, that's kind of what 0.5 and 0.7 patches are. They're really kind of filler content to get you to the next big patch, which would be 11.2. But I think it's going to do a good job of doing that. I'm excited for it. We're going to get some interesting storylines here, some old god stuff, N'Zoth stuff. Now, whether N'Zoth returns a physical form or not, I don't think they would have revealed that just yet. I think that's a really cool thing to keep to be revealed in the game, and Blizzard's been doing a good job of kind of hiding the lore until then. So I wouldn't count it out just yet. I got my hopes, still a little bit up, just a little bit, but we'll see if it ends up happening. A nice video from Doran.